Here we are with Mr. Sergeant Barbs. I keep calling Sergeant Barbs since I found out you've
That's
served. But what was
that's
your actual
fine.
rank in the armed forces? Am I actually right in calling you
Was it?
Sergeant Barbs?
Oh no, I like my nickname. I'm just happy to be here, Mr. Lester. Can you hear me? All right, these headphones working all good.
I hear you
Had
absolutely
to dig.
clear.
Yeah, had to dig these ones out. So thought I'd make a good effort for you. We even got
For,
Mike Tyson in the background, so
for everyone who's
it's all
listening
good.
and on audio only, Barbs has got his headset on and a little mouthpiece like he's flying some sort of fighter jet. But no, he's top boy. Always good having you here, man. Again, we don't know where to begin with your phenomenal life, things you've done, things you'll continue doing, and again where you're at now. There's so many things to go into. But first and foremost, how have you been holding up in yourself? Obviously, the world's on its ass a bit. You've doing all the hours under the sun to try and keep things afloat. How are you holding up in yourself?
What, like as in like lockdown or just in general?
In general, I mean, lockdown's a part and parcel
Yeah,
of it.
yeah. Try to stay fit. Like always enjoying fitness. I did. I was out cycling this morning, so got a good cycle in. And during the lockdown, I've been doing like loads of reading. Like I really enjoy reading, like the best of times. But I'm just smashing out loads of books. But I like reading stuff on true events, just education or just getting knowledge up. So I've been doing like shitloads of reading as well. And yeah, I'm pretty happy to be fair. It's like it's not no big deal. Like I'm just a happy guy. I'm just happy to have my freedom, so I can just like do what I want, etc.
Now, I like that the way they were sort of saying things you're doing anyway. But again, ultimately, you're happy to be you and happy to have what you have around you. Because again, a lot of people don't quite appreciate just existing as a good thing, whether or not you like it or not. It's a very important thing. And regards to things you're reading, like true events, what sort of events are you reading about? Is it more like fame and things like that? Is it like what sort of themes are you reading about?
I love more autobiographies and I love like history, like especially military history. But I love reading all the fighter autobiographies and books sort of thing to get some inspiration and or just anyone that's sort of been through like a sort of tough road in life and then they've come out on top. So it just makes you appreciate life more. One book I read actually was on a guy called Kevin Lane. It's called Fitted Up and Fighting Back. He got wrongly accused for a contract killing on in the 90s, and he's ended up serving over 20 years in like a double A Cat A prison. When you read like he just wants to clear his name. He's not trying to give it a big I am. But when you read like certain books like that, it makes you appreciate. I went out cycling this morning. I've got my freedom. I've got a family. You can just go shopping, you get out and about, and like have a good life. You don't realize how lucky you are sometimes. And then with the military ones, I like reading about the old stories, or like people in World War I, because some people out there might think like I had it hard or whatever, but I had it easy compared to them blokes. But in the further you go back down history, you realize how hard people in the past got it. Like a Spartan warrior, for argument's sake, would look at World War I and thought they got it easy. I mean, so it just goes down like that. But makes you appreciate how good you have got life and how like some people back in the past were really tough and then did have it a lot rough, especially more rough than I did.
I mean, again, that kind of awareness and appreciation of the situation you're in, it's invaluable. Because again, as much as like, I think the caveat with this is something very careful is it's just because someone else's situation is worse doesn't devalue your situation at all. Because this is where a
Exactly.
lot of people still very much like, okay, I'm feeling a bit sad or what versus so and so who can't get out of bed, ergo I feel fine by comparison, but they still haven't addressed their own sort of issues, their own sort of things there. And one thing you were saying there about reading these sort of war stories, comparing your own with those, like again, after speaking to you and hearing certain things you've said, preferably off camera, just because obviously some confidentiality. Again, you've had quite a few experiences that are very I don't know, very document work. There's a lot of interesting things going on there. If you were to sort of highlight, I don't know, an experience you've had versus, because people say about lessons they've learned from experiences, what sort of thing have you really appreciated from seeing something that up close and personal from your time serving?
Well, time serving. Well, for fact on the old, I don't want to put a damper on the podcast, but with the like suicide like fact within my battle group from like when we was on tour, more people actually like died of like suicide once we got back in the UK than actually got injured or died whilst we're out there on tour. So that fact's like astonishing, really. And because the human brain's like a strange thing. I'm no doctor. I don't know how it works. So none of us really do. It's a fascinating thing. But there's sort of like three sort of sections that people are sort of suffer, which I feel sorry for them and my heart goes out to them because I've always seemed to cope with it really well. But some people sort of get like the survival guilt and if someone got injured that's close to them, or anyone for that matter, and they survived, they're the ones like they're sort of part of a family, like because the airborne like brotherhood, when we're in there, it's like such a tight knit, close of people that when they leave that, they sort of feel a bit lost and they sort of like miss it like really badly, and it's like their purpose and their like sort of purpose within life. And the third thing is like the no more buzz, because you just get such a buzz out of like certain things that potentially could happen. To find that again and chase that is like literally impossible to match. So a lot of even one of them three things is enough to send a lot of people on a downward spiral. But a lot of soldiers have to suffer with like all three of them at one hit. That's why you see some really really good blokes go downhill very fast, and it's such a shame to see. To be fair, so I'm always grateful that I've sort of kept my mind mentally strong and yeah, cracked on. And I think MMA is like literally, I'm not just saying this because it's an MMA podcast, but MMA is literally the best. You can't get anything better than that. It's just so good for mental health and just putting all my energy into that. And I recommend it to anyone. It's just like anyone that does suffer that type of thing. Like MMA is just like, you can't get any better. Well, sports in general is brilliant, but MMA particularly, because a lot of things are quite similar. It locks really well with a team. You got team spirit. You put yourself into a dangerous situation. You get like a bit of a buzz and you get good reward. You're training all together. Like it works in like really, really well. So I think like got a lot of thanks to MMA for that. It's been brilliant to me personally.
Now, a few things with that I want to sort of go into a bit more. Obviously, this sort of thing is very personal to yourself, and again, anyone else has been affected by this. I feel a lot of that is the identity, as like you're saying there. Obviously, you go from the crap hats, the penguins, to airborne and everything else. Again, I know some of the terminology from Ant Middleton. He's sort of butchering it down towards me, but here we are. But again, you go in that sort of the area of there, then you get taken away from that back to Civvy Street, and you try to find your purpose, find your identity. Yeah, my big group of lads, we're all our mates. This is who we are. Then taken away from that, you lose your identity, lose your sort of, again, like you're saying, the purpose and higher being. And I feel with the MMA sort of thing in itself, it's more so another outlet. It's another platform where you can be in. You find another hierarchy, you find a team, you then get a new label of MMA fighter and everything else. I feel that's where that really sort of comes home. But the question I really asked was about things you've learned from that personal experience. From that experience there, then seeing the people around you obviously taking their own lives. What is it you found you've learned from that? Is it more to reach out to those around you? Is it more the environment you need to be in? Is it being aware of your identity sort of thing? What did you feel you took from that, understanding that?
Well, good question actually. I'm still part of like a WhatsApp group. There's a lot of people like we're sad with it together. So if anyone's going through a downer, we perk each other up and tell some old story, try and make each other laugh, etc. But there is quite a lot of help out there for everyone. But what I've learned is sort of to emotionally detach myself. To like, if someone is anything did happen, if you didn't really know, if you weren't really that close to them, you can sort of like get by like really well. But if you are close to that person, I think that's when the people like really hits them hard, sort of thing, which you can understand. Because one thing that I was lucky, I was really fortunate as well. Like when I was out there in '08 on Herrick 8, we just called him Soldier P. He was traveling from Edinburgh to Nowshead on the drop, and if you're like sort of like the top cover, like you're going to get like hit the worst, sort of injured, and as it went across, the Taliban used to like hide a mine underneath the like sand as a disguise. It sort of like knocked it, and it was like it was an anti-tank mine. It was a massive one, and it tilted on its side a bit, but it didn't go off. And it was a Wimmick that was behind, and they started beeping. They shouted like to them, like everyone stop convoy, and bomb disposal like they dealt with it. They did their thing, and then they cracked on. But the lad that was at top cover, he was the person I was most close to within the regiment. We got detached and right from the get go when we were out there, so we went like with each other all the time. But he was back in the UK. We used to do like everything together. We even went to UFC 75 together down there, O2, which like
75.
Like, yeah, Bisping's like third fight, everything. So, and because 2 years prior to that, when the Zant tour, like before I went out there, there was a lad that got hit within the regiment, and similar thing. He was a Wimmick, but he was a top cover for a Wimmick. And when he got like really badly injured, like search for it, I wouldn't name drop him, I think, but I respect her family. But he was like dubbed as the British soldiers like worst surviving from the injuries. It was that bad, like lost his legs, etc. Like horrific, like what happened to him. And because I wasn't really like close to him, but what I've seen people within the regiment that were close to him, even to this day, they really, it hits them like hard. So I think the lesson that I learned is if you're close to someone, it hits you hard a bit. But with some of the other people like within the team, obviously they're still teammates, but just try not to get like emotionally attached. Just like try and stay mentally strong and just crack on with the job and try and keep it black and white, like the good and the bad, like things that happen, and then like off you go. Because one thing I used to do when nighttime might sound a bit like savage sort of thing. I used to think like, already like gonna die anyway. So if anything like did happen, then like you're gonna go out like with honor sort of thing. So you just try to like not like be scared. And just that's the lesson. To try not to get too emotionally attached. Because more emotionally attached you get to something. It's like a pet, isn't it? Like, I'm a big dog lover. Like, obviously, when your dog dies, it's like horrendous, isn't it? So just try. It's hard not to as a person, especially like if you're a good person like yourself, Dan. But not get emotionally attached. That's the best thing that I learned from it. Answering that question.
I mean, that's a very. I don't know how to even begin to, because a lot of what I'm going to say in this whole podcast, I can't even begin to emulate what you must have been going through. Because again, like, put us two together. Say we're close friends anyway. We train together. You know, we know each other. We've gone for food together. Like, I can't have that relationship with someone without emotionally investing. Obviously, I'm not going to shag you. Sorry, mate. I'm saying the podcast here, but obviously, we're boys. But if something was to happen to you, I'd be devastated, be gutted. I couldn't detach myself in that sort of way. Is it a case of, much like we're saying things to try and cover their aliases, I call them Soldier 1, Soldier 2, Soldier 3, is that how you perceive them in the first place, to sort of make sure you don't even establish that rapport? Or is it like an after the fact thing to try to just disguise who they are as people and more their individual roles, if you see what I mean?
No, it's just more like, just because on a podcast, I want like families or thing. And last thing I would want to do is come across as someone that's like name dropping or like shouting about, like, because there's a lot of people out there on the tour did a lot of bigger and better things than me. I mean, I was just like part of it, so that's why I just like don't really like name them sort of thing. You know what I mean?
So my point was more to, in order to emotionally detach yourself from the soldiers and your brothers in arms, literally, how can you detach yourself emotionally? Is it just a case of literally identifying them differently, or is it putting the job above your own well-being?
Yeah, it's very hard. Like, well, to be fair, I never really like quite mastered it myself, because I was always like really enjoyed like that sort of like friendship and the bond with everyone. Like, that was like sort of like the best bit, like the man next to you. But so yeah, attaching from it was like literally like, it's like so hard. I think that's why a lot of people like suffer, really, because you just got to like crack on, really. But there's no easy way. Like, you can't really put it into words. It's just like you said earlier, about just finding an outlet, really. So when you get back, you can just like crack on, put your energy into something else.
But even there, like, again, this is something I wanted to get you on for this sort of reason. You downplay a lot of yourself. Again, you don't give yourself enough credit, and these sort of things are very powerful, very beyond speakable things. Because again, people who hear me talk about various mental health bits and bobs, again, there's levels to this shit, man. Like, it's all well and good me getting lost in my own head in certain X, Y, and Z, but to see what you've seen and do what you've done and still be the absolute top boy you are, I can't respect you enough. You know what I mean? And the fact you won't give yourself credit after do it for you, that's fine. There's a few things with that. Regards of during, after, just general PTSD from yourself. How were you? Obviously, you weren't as affected. Did you still have any kind of, like, I don't know, therapies? Did you speak to anyone? Did you need anyone? What's going
No,
on?
not really. If I'm being like brutally honest, I always just felt that I was like fine. I just had it where I could just switch it off and just be happy and like just like positive. And to be fair, like some of the other lads, I wouldn't take it away from them, because there's a lot of people that need a lot more help than me and seen a lot less things than me. So I think like they need the help like more than I ever did. I was just like lucky, really. I just didn't really like suffer with much at all, to be fair. So I'm just happy. But I got straight into. I've always been into sports and that. Anyway, I think like sports is the best thing. And then, like I said earlier, like just getting into MMA and getting involved in that. Like, if you're like, you know, say if you're like rolling with someone, or you're sparring with someone, or better still, if you're like fighting with someone, you only concentrate on that man in front of you trying to punch you in the face. So all the other problems or anything in your mind just gone. So that's what I did. I just got straight in the MMA gym and just tried to get down there. Like, as much as I can every day if possible.
Now, when it comes to the stress of competing in MMA and other sort of martial arts versus the real life pressure of an operation where, your life is literally almost written off before you go there, that when you go into it, how does that compare regards of your adrenaline, regards of your mental management? Say your last MMA fight against, I think Jack Bartlett was, on 5-round title fight, preparing for that, cutting the weight, all that kind of stuff. How did that compare to a normal operation on the job?
Yeah, it's not as intense, obviously, but there is quite a few like similarities, really. And all fighters know you get nervous, like when you're backstage. Like, so I'm no different. You do get like a bit of nerves, but you sort of you have it in perspective. Like the worst thing that's going to happen to you is not going to be as bad as what could potentially happen on a battlefield. So you sort of might have that edge, like where you could be like sort of less like fearless sort of thing, because obviously the referee's there and it is a sport at the end of the day. Even though it's like barbaric and it's like a full contact sport, it still is comes under sport. So yeah, like, but it's very similar really. In the dressing room, you don't want it's sort of like kick off, but you know what's coming, so you get nervous. And then when you're in there, like once it like does kick off or anything does happen, like you can't think about anything else. So in a strange way, it's like very similar. I think from working on the doors and doing like private security, I think it's easier than actually having an MMA fight. And to be honest, is like if you're backstage in the dressing room and you're going to about to fight someone, you've got that nervous energy, you're waiting to go in there. But sometimes if you're doing the security or you're at a nightclub, you're working, it just kicks off instantly. So you just got to get straight in there. So you haven't got that time because the waiting. Ask any fighter, the waiting is the worst bit. So yeah, it is like obviously not as much of a buzz as being on the battlefield and when it kicks off like that, but it's similar in a different kind of way. It's just sort of like a one bit lower, but so yeah, definitely like similar in that way.
So again, we're going to more detail on certain bits and bobs, but one thing with this is environments. Again, the MMA environment, the battlefield, and again the operations environment, the security environment, they're very hostile environments. Obviously, to different degrees, but again, it's not a very, I don't know. You have to be prepared. Are you one who needs to be prepared, be on edge to feel fulfilled, or do you feel it's something you're just used to and accustomed to?
Sort of, it sort of can be bit like it could be maybe like a slight addiction, like put yourself in some dangerous sort of situations to get the blood pumping and get that sort of adrenaline rush. Because I don't really do anything else in life. I don't to get my rush. I don't gamble. I don't drink. I don't take drugs. I don't womanize and all that sort of stuff. People sort of get that buzz from. I don't do any of that. So maybe that is sort of just channeling it into like sort of a bit like an adrenaline or that type of stuff. Because I quite enjoy like adventure training, something like parachuting or white rafting or abseiling, that sort of stuff. I like, yeah, I do quite enjoy like, the adrenaline. To be fair, that sort of it is quite addictive as well. Like being in sort of a dangerous situation and testing yourself as well. Like because you only live once, so it's good to push yourself and put you in some situations where you really have got like test yourself, and you sort of you feel more alive when you're pushing yourself to limits. And especially being like outdoors, that's why I didn't like the lockdown. I like being outdoors, like down all the time, like even going for hikes and stuff. I like being outdoors, so at one with nature. So I think it definitely like it is that, yeah.
The reason I'm asking these kind of questions because to sort of understand how you're wired, how you can perform under that kind of pressure, how you can, go in day by day like this. Because again, I'll give you a very, very trivial example to really bring home why this is so significant. The average person who goes for a job interview, they're keyed up waiting for it. They don't want it. They've got their either existing job they hate, they're trying to get out of, or they're unemployed, desperate, looking for something to keep the lights on. Again, the build up for that is so horrible. The conversation so horrible. The whole build up, and again, result aside, it's just a very stressful situation. Whereas yourself, everything you're around is like that, but tenfold. But again, you're more composed. You're answering these horrible questions you're asking yourself. Again, push comes to shove. What happens? Will I be able to face it if I see someone, KIA in front of me? Can I face it if I lose and have to come back and look myself in the mirror? You have to find out. And again, you won't get those answers unless you're in those situations. And fuck me, man. Again, I can't articulate how much I respect you for going through what you go through. And again, to consider being so to consistently still be the top boy you are. Now,
I appreciate it, Mr. Lester.
with the composure under pressure, there's a few things we've sort of highlighted before we start recording. But again, when it comes to the mistakes in the cage versus mistakes in operations, are very different, consequences. How are you with making mistakes and retaining your composure? Because obviously it's a very different, different consequences for the scenario.
Yeah, well, within MMA, as you know, I'm not the best fighter in the world, Mr. Lesser, so I tend to make mistakes quite often. But if you do make mistakes, it's just one of them things, isn't it? But when you're elsewhere, obviously, like in the battlefield, it's consequence higher. But even like doing the private security industry, because it's not like the films. If you're having like sort of a battle on the street with someone, or you have someone potentially an attacker, because if there's multiple people, it's not like Jackie Chan where he just takes people out. If you have like 10 people or multiple people to like grab you, like it ain't really got much chance. But the worst thing as well is like in the octagon, there's no weapons. It's just a fist fight. It's like man to man, how real men should fight. But like on the streets in the UK at the minute, like knife crime's like gone for the roof. And even if you get someone in a sort of like rear naked, they could just like put it in you like so quick. It's just such an equalizer. So you have some 18-year-old like little young lad that can't fight to save his life, but he could potentially like take you out like so simple. So the consequences obviously a lot worse within the private security industry. Like one example, we'll call him Dorman A. I don't know if he just attracts trouble. He's just got bad luck. But
Security Steve, we'll call him that. Why not?
Yeah, when we got like first night, I was on with him over like Russian sort of thing. Like you could count to 10 seconds. Like it was on the front door. You got like some geezer got stabbed like straight in the face, it ripped out, and you got like loads of like collateral, like blood everywhere. And that's same doorman. Every time I work with him, like it was a headbutt. He's breaking his hand, and he the worst one was like on the front door, like someone like pulled out like a big massive machete on him, and like he's only a young lad. You just think like it's just it's like bad, obviously, because all jiu-jitsu, like and your Thai, your boxing, everything, like in the battlefield, or even sometimes in the private security industry, it doesn't matter how good your Thai kick is. Like you get in situations where like none of it really sort of like helps sort of things. The danger level and the violence just goes through the roof. Especially like the Taliban, they're like you can't get any more violent if you tried. I mean, you can end up getting beheaded if you graffiti something wrong over there in Taliban state down Sangin sort of thing in the peak of it. So like the consequences are just like really, really heightened. Whereas in the MMA, like the worst thing, like, even if you get like knocked out, it's not good. It's more like the embarrassment thing in MMA, not embarrassment, but yourself when you go out to like fight. If you have a good tear up with someone, it's a back and forward fight. At the end of it, even if you lose on points, you think shake the guy's hand, and think fair play. But I think the more fearful thing in MMA is if you go out in 10 seconds, you get knocked out, or you get caught in a silly submission like really quickly. And I think that's what fighters get more nervous like backstage. It's not so much losing or getting hurt, because some people we train with, like they're not scared of getting hurt. They're like animals, and they're like proper tough guys. They get punched in the face every day in, day out. But it's more like they're fearful of like losing or making a bad mistake and sort of not performing to the best of their ability.
So I feel a lot of that has been misrepresented than is anything else. Because again, if you don't show up and you just get beaten by someone you should be able to beat, it's much worse than like if you have a split decision loss to someone who you gave your all and they're better on the night. Very different thing in itself. But the question I was really asking was more, once you've made one mistake in a scenario or a sequence, is retaining your composure to keep the standard throughout. So prime example, that MMA fight, I think the first round you were in a Kimura. And again, that could have been a lot of people who sort of mentally out saying, oh shit, I've lost, that's the end of that. But again, you got out of it, you retained to fight the rest of the fight. Again, almost having a fight ending sequence yourself. How do you keep that composure under that pressure once you've made a mistake to then recover and keep going? Do you see what I mean?
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, in the first round, I got caught with like a bad knee that fight early. I think one of the first shots, and we're down in Kimura, and he nearly finished it. To be fair, but managed to just like get out of it, and then I just carried on fighting. Really, it's something's a bit of a blur, and then it's just you just got to like keep going like to the end, Dan, isn't you? Because like as you know, you could a 5-round fight. You could win like 4. You could lose like 4 rounds in a row, but it was always that chance of a submission. And yeah, exactly. And against my man Chael Sonnen, my favorite fighter as well. But yeah, there's always that chance to stay in there. But like to answer your question, yeah, just adapt and overcome sort of thing. You just try and good fighters just find the way, don't they? You see it in some fighters; they just try and bring it out the bag. You just gotta just stay in the fight. Don't get disheartened if it's not going your way. Just ride it out and just try and grab that win. Any means necessary.
Any means necessary. You find
Yeah,
weapons, you make weapons, you do what you need to do. A win is a win. Victory lasts forever. Defeat lasts things. In the operations, though, obviously people's lives are at risk. And again, it's not a sport. It's not as trivial as, oh, I made a mistake here. I'll get back and, all the cliches, I'll win and I'll learn and crack on. Operations is much more real. Has anything ever gone wrong in operations? Something quite severe you've had to recover from, poker face things out and, stay strong.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you little story was something like might go wrong and just might try and make it laugh a little bit on one of our close protection operations, because sometimes the fans go a bit like mad for it. Dan, we had worst ones were like 1975 they went mad for it, and 21 pilots, because obviously they're from America. People just think that's the only chance they're going to see them, so they go mad. But we're doing a job, the team sort of thing. I've got a great team. It's not just me doing, obviously. There's all the teams there, and we have a Sir whoever. I won't name who it was, but
Joe Blogs.
Yeah, so Joe Blogs. ITV was there and everything. Dan, in the whole works media. Good job that it stayed outside. He gets up on the stage, and he's one of the older generation. So what was fan base? These women ain't young, Dan, at all. Trust me. And instantly, out of nowhere, two of the women, the elderly women, they fainted straight away, and we're like, "What?" So we're trying to deal with that. And right to the back was the lift, which is for the disabled with the wheelchairs. So we tried to get them down that, and a third one, believe it or not, actually shat herself. She got that excited. She couldn't control her bowels. She was that excited, because some of these people get so excited to see their hero or their, that's what fans short for, isn't it? Fanatic. So they when they see them, they go absolutely mental. And these women weren't young. Two of them just passed out instantly, and some other one, a bowels just fucking released everywhere. And everyone was trying to get away from it. It's fucking, and so the team just didn't expect it. Was in complete disarray. So we had to obviously get them out the back for safety. And when the two women, they went together, they were separate. When they fainted, when they come round, when the team was asking them, who you with, a next kin, is your son with you, or who you here with? Both of them were on their own. They're oh no, I'm just here on our own. So it just made it a clusterfuck, to be fair. So it's good when things go wrong. It's you just have to think on the spot, and the whole plan that you had, you could be up all night making this plan, and then when it fucking comes down to it, it goes completely out window. You have to just go to plan B. So that's one that went a bit wrong, but also a bit funny. So some of the listeners might enjoy that one a bit more.
I mean, here's the next question for you, Barbs. Who is the act who, if you were to see live, you'd shit yourself? Go on, give me your one.
Oh, if I personally,
yeah.
To be fair, I think this is what makes me quite good at my job, because I don't get starstruck.
I shit myself all the time. People can't tell.
All these actors, all these musicians, because I've never been. I don't really listen to much music anyway. So if I'm standing next to whoever's number one in the charts, man, I don't even know who it even is. I don't give a shit. I'd rather talk to if I meet fighters and stuff, I love it, because that's the sort of stuff I'm into. So, but if I went to a concert sort of thing, the only really band I used to like in school was probably Oasis, to be fair.
Oh, that's a cool one. Liam or Noel comes up to you. You're all right. Well,
but to be honest, they're just people like me and you, Dan. There's no starstruck and people. Even if you speak to them, they're all just normal, really. There's no point in being starstruck or anything like that. Just is what it is. They might be good at acting, or they might be good at singing, but some of my other friends, they're good at fucking fighting or something else. Everyone's good at something, isn't they? It doesn't mean they're any better than anyone else. Everyone's just the same, isn't they?
As very true as that is, Barbs, tell them that as well. They need to remind themselves, I think, sometimes. But we won't name names. We'll keep people.
Some of them do, Mr. Lester. Some of them do. But none of them are good at podcasting than Fisticuffs. I'll fucking tell them that for now.
Oh, my heart. Oh, Barbs, you say it to all the hosts. I know what you're like. You're not a celebrity. But anyway, we keep moving. We keep moving.
I'm not a celebrity. That's the last. I've seen it first. That's the last thing I'd want to be, man. I just want to go Asda and buy a protein bar every now and again.
And we're away.
Getting fucking chased down by fucking.
That's the get That's the dream. So there's a few other things I want to go into before I let you enjoy the rest of your evening. when it comes to your composure, just generally in your day to day and trying new things, because again, the things you already do, you're very versed in. The again, being in being in confrontation, being in these hostile environments. What is your attitude when trying something new? What was your attitude from? I don't know. What was the last thing you did that was completely new, where you're a complete beginner at?
Um, I love trying like things new. To be fair, that's how you grow. And I'm not scared to fail or anything like that. Last thing I probably did was jumped on set and did a little bit of acting. To be fair, that come about by fluke, and that was quite enjoyable. And I thought, fuck it, like just jump in, give it a shot. And hopefully next time I speak to you, like there's another one I could put as potentially being like Human Traffic 2 that's could be made something. I might be jumping in a little scene on that as well. To be fair, so there's a little heads up for you. So
Preview.
probably that, but that was just more fun, really. Like it's not something a career I'd want to go down, but it's cool just to like jump in and try different things. So like, yeah, I'm not scared of trying anything new. Like I've got no ego, or I don't like care like about failing. I just like you only live once, don't you? Fuck it, just give it a shot, man. Like why not?
But again, it's the open mind that I was more getting at. Again, it's more so how you get yourself in a position to be able to be coachable, to learn, to be relaxed. Because again, you've been under pressure, and it's okay. I'm versed in this sort of field now. It's another position where I'm in, the hot seat again. And
Yeah.
to sort of end things quite nice, I've got 3 questions for you, and I'm going to make a bit more tailored to your situation, so you can get a bit more of a personal feel in the answer. The first is,
Lovely.
there you are. We'll say before going on operations, before you jump out with your parachute in your back, in comes
Oh yeah.
you in the headspace you're at now with the knowledge you've got of your experiences and everything else. What advice do you give to yourself before you make your jump for your operation to keep you in a good headspace to, perform the job as best you can?
I think it's just like confidence and believing in yourself. Like as the wise man said, if like you don't believe yourself, like who else is? So just believe in yourself and give it 100%. Like
Well, this is why it gets important, because again, this has the reason this question is important, because it's not just the words and the language being used, it's the principle behind it. Again, has there been times where you've again let yourself down due to not believing in yourself? Has that been an issue before?
yeah, I think so. I think like sometimes even like people around you, if they like might throw a little negative comment or sort of thing. Like sometimes I've been suspect to take it on a lot more than I should, because now older and like get it tough, you should sort of like any naysayers just push their comments to the side. So yeah, I've definitely been guilty of that in the past, and I think everyone has to a certain extent in life. But as you get older, you sort of grow, you get thicker skin, and yeah, I think it's a good lesson in life. But that's what I'd like tell myself for operations. Just be a bit more confident, like just believe in yourself more. Like it's like key, really.
Definitely. Again, it's obviously easier said than done in the moment, but
Yeah.
to appreciate that principle is very important. Another one is a beginner in your field. Again, we'll keep it with the operations. Again, new recruit, crap hat, whatever you want to call them, whatever stage they're at. What advice do you give them that you would have wished you'd have had?
Um, funny because you mentioned the Ant Middleton books. I've read his 3 books as well, because you said you read them as well. But do you know the bit when he said how when he sort of you get like 18, 19 and the lads start going on nights out and fucking like sort of pissing around a bit more? I would sort of say to them, when don't get peer pressured into like doing that sort of stuff. Just keep your head down, concentrate on a job, and aim higher. Don't just pass the first course and then think you're fucking Billy Big Bollocks. You know it all. Get try and improve, do more courses, and try and become a better soldier. Like because it's endless. The same as being a martial artist. The same as being so you can never get to the pinnacle. You can always get better because like the map reading, like first aid, like all this sort of stuff. Like there's so much to learn. Just always keep looking to improve would be my advice. Because some young lads, I probably did it myself, being like when once you pass like P company and get your power wings and that, you think, oh yeah, like sort of I've done it now. But that should just be the beginning. You should just like keep pushing on and keep improving, because like things that get might seem a bit boring are actually like vital. Because what's the point of being the fittest guy in the world, but if you're map reading and shit and you're running in the wrong direction or you're traveling a client to the wrong direction, you're fucking useless, aren't you? So just get your head in the books and just try and learn everything. Be an all rounder, same as the MMA, like being all rounder. As a soldier, be an all rounder. Yeah, you're good at this, you're good at that, but what are you weak at? Like try and be an all rounder. That'd be my advice. Don't get too ahead of yourself. like think you're better than you are. Just stay humble and just try and be a better version of yourself.
And again, I can't help but feel when it comes to being in that situation, you naturally like flock in sort of herd mentality. Okay, everyone I respected, everyone I've sort of gone through the trenches with is now in this phase of their life where they want to, you know, let off steam, they want to party, they want a bit of fun. And you don't know much different. You're in the same sort of world of entitlement that, you know, I've earned this because I've done X, Y, and Z. But then having your context of understanding that, yes, that's fun. Yes, it's all well and good, but it's bigger than where you're at right now. It makes a lot of sense to then home that through. Unless I've got anything wrong there, I think that's very prominent. I think that's
it's like it, mate. If like some fighter wins his first fight, and then you never see them again, sort of thing. Like I mean, like just
completed it.
Fight, you just got to keep push. You just got to keep pushing through, ain't you? Like
definitely. And the last question, and most important one, Barbs, where can people find you on social media?
Well, I'm on a bit of fucking sport for choice about everything: Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook,
OnlyFans,
fucking lot. But yeah, Tinder. No, I'm not really on that.
Hello.
Grindr.
Grinders. At Big Barbs.
I don't use Twitter too much. To be fair, more of Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, just search for Ryan Barby at Ryan Barby on the Instagram, and Ryan Barby on Facebook has come up. If you're struggling to find me, just go on Dan's Friends. Not unless he's deleted me after this podcast or blocked me. I should still be on it.
This is it. Links to those will be in the description. Be sure to check out Barb's on all platforms. Top boy. Everyone who's served, be sure you thank them for their service. Again, they put their lives on the line to make sure we can still do what we do. Again, you may not appreciate it directly, but it's a very important thing. Thank you so much for your service and your time, Barbs. Check out our sponsors, the English Hypnotist, for all your sort of mental sort of development needs, albeit from a psychological point of view, from performance, all these sort of things. Conversation with Richard can be a real game changer. We've got rash guards in, shorts in. We've got hybrid shorts on route, the new ones. Check all those out. And again, Fisticuffs _podcast on all streaming platforms. Stay healthy, stay grateful, and keep growing.